What's going on, folks? It's your boy again, back in the building, Dr. Sean Thomas, episode 75 of the Be More Today show. We are back in the building, and folks, 75 episodes. We have made it, another landmark for the Be More Today show. We are trending everywhere. The Be More Today show is heard on all platforms and also on YouTube. So if you have not subscribed yet to our Be More Today show, go on your podcast app, subscribe. Be More Today show. Go on YouTube, subscribe, Be More Today show. We are heard in 39 countries and booming. It's been an awesome experience. It's our second season, and it's been great just having you guys follow us. If you do want to contribute to the page as well, you can go on there in this little donation site. You can go on there and just give anything you want to give. Greatly appreciate it. My quote for today is always simple. It's as follows. The day you understand that losses ain't nothing but lessons, and failure ain't nothing but feedback, your entire world will shift for the better. Folks, I don't know about you, but this whole year has been a year filled with ups and downs. And no matter what you go through, right? You may go through things that are great, that inspire you to do better. You may hit some rock bottom moments in your life where you're like, yo, what is going on? What am I doing? But no matter what you go through, there are lessons, and we have to learn from these things because they bring us to the next level. My daughter ran a race a couple weeks ago, New York Road Runners, and she was so scared to run it, but she ran it. And she learned from that again that she can do these things, even though she's scared, even though she gets petrified every single race she runs. She gets out there and she does it. And the same thing's for you. You have to go out there and don't be afraid to fail. You're gonna fail sometimes. You're gonna hit rock bottom sometimes. But with everything you do, there's a moment to really reflect on that and say, you know what, let's keep pushing. Let's keep moving. And I learned that throughout my life in various ways. I mean, I wrote a whole book about my failures and my triumphs as well. But everything that I went through pushed me to be a better person. And I thought for today's show, for number 75, who better to bring on than someone who pushed me in my life so much. And it's an interesting story. I'm glad I'm connected with him. And folks, if you don't know, his name is Samyr Laine. Now, let me read some of his bio so you can just be a little wowed by what he's been doing and what he continues to do in the world. As a track and field athlete representing Haiti in international competitions for nearly a decade, Samyr Laine was not only among the very best athletes that Haiti has ever seen, he was very much among the best athletes in the world in his discipline. And mine too, the triple jump. He is Haiti's national record holder for the jump at 17.39 meters, just over 57 feet. He won multiple medals for Haiti at various international competitions, won bronze and a gold at the Central American and Caribbean Games, as well as a silver at the Pan American Sports Festival, just to name a few, and represented Haiti at 3 Pan American Games, 7 World Indoor and Outdoor Championships, and 1 Olympic Games. Many times, Samyr was the lone Haitian athlete to qualify for those global championships, but he didn't merely attend. He qualified for the finals at 2012 Olympic Games and 2013 World Championships, finishing 11th at both global competitions. On several occasions, he finished in the top 10 in the world ranking list of top triple jumper distances at a particular year, and year in and year out was a stable on the IAAF Diamond League circuit, which is the top competitive circuit in the sport. Before representing Haiti, Samyr was an NCAA All-American in college and held the Ivy League conference record for all time, and still holds the Harvard University school record in triple jump to this very day. Aside from his 11 competitions or accomplishments, Samyr has earned degrees from the aforementioned Harvard University, as well as a master's degree from the University of Texas and a law degree from Georgetown University, the latter of which he earned while traveling the world competing as a professional athlete and representing Haiti. He's a member of the New York State Bar and currently the Senior Vice President of Operations and Strategy at Westbrook Incorporated, where he heads up the company's good goods division and oversees all consumer brand incubation and licensing. Prior to joining Westbrook Incorporated, Samyr was the Senior Director of Operations at Roc Nation. There he spearheaded the operations for key growth initiatives for Roc and some of its affiliated companies, launched their new literary division as a partner with Penguin Random House, and managed several notable multi-platinum recording artists. And before Roc Nation, Samyr was Director of Player Relations and Competition for Major League Soccer. He's a published author and also spent several years as an adjunct professor at Marymount University in Arlington, Virginia. More importantly than anything I've mentioned, Samyr's work as a member of the board of directors with L'École de Choix, a school in Haiti, and formerly as an advisory board member of the Business of Sports School. Beyond that, he's worked with a number of organizations in and related to Haiti and hopes to have a lasting impact on the lives of children there, particularly through sport and education. And although he frequently works with high school and mentors student athletes here in the US, he does so many things as well. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pets included, please welcome to the stage. I call him my nemesis, but now he's my friend, and I can't even touch him now because he's too hot for TV. My guy, Samyr Laine. Samyr, what is going on?
Not much, man. I appreciate the intro. I appreciate, especially for episode 75, which I feel like is a milestone. So I appreciate the invite. It's also good to be upgraded from nemesis to friend. So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yo, listen, it's funny because as I was going through your bio, all I kept thinking in my mind was Harvard. And with Ivy League competition, there's a certain amount of like competition and competitiveness and grit that you have where you don't really interact with people from other schools. All I heard in my mind was you guys saying your Harvard ha 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 theme in my mind. And I was like, oh man, here we go again. You know what I mean? But there's so many memories that come with track and field. And again, I'm just so grateful that you took the time, I know you're on the West Coast, to be on the show today. You and I have connections that we really haven't talked about. And I want to talk about those on the show today, because again, you went to NFA, which is a school in Newburgh. And I didn't go to high school in Newburgh, but my family is from that area. So when you were at school as a freshman, I was a senior, and I saw that you were from Newburgh. I said, man, who's this phenom coming from Newburgh that brought me off of everything? And I recognized that you were actually from there. So my first question for you is, are you from Haiti, or were you born in the US, and how did you end up in Newburgh at all?
Yeah. So born in the US, in New York, in Rockland County. Both my parents actually were born in Haiti and then emigrated here to the US. So, and we'll chat about it later, but my deciding to compete for Haiti was just that. It was a decision, right? So could have competed for the US, had passports from both countries. So in spite of being born here, decided to make the decision to compete for Haiti, and ended up in New York. My parents just moved from Rockland County to New York. I think I was probably 3-4 years old. They moved up to Newburgh, so a little bit more space. It's a little bit farther from the city, but it was just happenstance in terms of they're looking for a new place for us to relocate to.
Yeah, that's awesome. As some may not know, I actually wrote a whole chapter on our interactions in college. So I was a senior, you were a freshman. I had just come off a knee surgery, and I don't know if you remember this guy, Twan Ray.
Yeah, of course.
Twan Ray, clearly another amazing triple jumper for UPenn. I actually stayed with him on my recruiting trip as a freshman. I was supposed to go to Penn, was all about it, and then last second I decided to go to Brown instead. So I knew Twan, I stayed with him, and I literally had competed against this guy for years. And I never beat Twan. Never. I never came close to him at all. Until our very last competition, his senior year, my junior year, I got second, he got first. And I said, okay, well, this is it. He graduates, and I'm good.
Yep, it's my spot.
Right. And then you show up. And I'm like, oh man, all this stuff I've done to get better at my craft and do whatever else. And I mean, I wasn't the stud that you were. I just put a lot of work into it, because I was like, I got to put work into this thing. I don't know how you got into it, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So I was working into this thing, and then, you came along, and I'm not going to lie to you. Like the chapter of my book is entitled David and Goliath. And I saw you as Goliath to me. Like, you were faster, you were stronger. I was like, this guy is going to take me out. And I surgery that September. So I was pretty much out for most of the season. And then I came back for indoor at Dartmouth. And I remember seeing you, and I was a little intimidated, because I was like, I'm not ready. And I remember I only beat you by an inch. The last jump you took, which you fouled. And I remember to this day, it would have blown me out the water. And I literally held my breath when you were on there. I was like, if he messes up, then I win. But if he doesn't, it's a wrap. I thank God that you messed up, because that was the first time I won a championship. And I won again outdoors only by half an inch. And the same thing happened. I remember I was sitting there like, oh my goodness, this guy, he's going to take me out. And you fouled again. It must have been like a win 8 or whatever. You maybe were off by an inch or two. Yeah. And I ended up beating by half an inch. Yeah. And I wrote a whole chapter about it because literally and I mean, after that, you went on to like never lose ever again. But to me, it just was a moment of saying, if you put enough work into anything, you'll be successful. And even though you're going to face people that may be stronger than you, better than you, whatever, you know, everybody's day is going to be different. So for me, that day was different. And for you, it was different too, because I know you probably learned a lot. We never talked about it. I'm sure you learned a lot from that. That sparked you to go on and break every Harvard record, to win, you know, all the Ivy championships that you won, and to eventually go on to clearly compete for so many big time Olympic games. So I'm curious for you. First of all, how did you get involved in triple jump? Because it's the thing that most people are just thrown into because no one wants to do it. Yeah. Right? And then from there, how did you recognize that this was going to be something that you were going to continue to do at Harvard and even past that to the higher level?
Yeah. And, you know, to make a long story short, I started as a track and field athlete in 7th grade in high school, right? And inspired, I think it was the 2004 Olympics or something I saw, it's 2000 Olympics. One of them, I don't know. But you know, I got into track and field and I was just too small at that time, right? Like, so the school and the coaches made me a distance runner, and I was running like steeplechase and 2 mile, and I hated it. And not only did I hate it, but I got cut. So 7th grade, I was horrible. 8th grade, I went back. I had to do a mile run test. My mile run wasn't fast enough. So they're like, all right, like, you know, I got cut. Get out of here. So I spent several years playing tennis. I went back to track and field the end of my junior year. There's a new coach and everything. And to be honest, what happened was in gym class, all of my classmates were like, all right, this guy can jump. But on the track, I went back to track and I wanted to be a sprinter. I just wasn't fast enough, right? I wasn't fast enough to run the 2 or the 4 or the 100, which is what my high school NFA is really, really known for, is for the sprinters. And you have to have a little bit more speed to be a long jumper. So our coach was like, all right, you ain't fast enough to do the sprint or long jump, but you can jump. High jump ain't really gonna be it. Let's try a triple jump. And so my high school coach, Malcolm Burks, had experience with the triple jump. And he was like, you've got this combination of speed and coordination and power and leaping ability. Try the triple jump. And at NFA in our high school, like, I did other things. The 200, 400, I wasn't very successful at it, but it really was just, like you said, happenstance, where he was like, all right, try it out. I'm throwing you in it. I heard in gym class, you're like blocking everyone's shot and you're leaping all over the place, so try it out. And I loved it. I think for me, it was that perfect combination of speed, power, coordination, strength, and leaping ability, and all of those in one, where there were so many levers that I could pull to continue to grow and develop, right? You get a little bit faster, you jump farther. You get a little bit better coordinated, a little bit stronger, you can continue improving 1 centimeter at a time or 1/4 inch at a time, right? So that's why I fell in love with it. But considering the fact that I'd spent so much time in high school either not running track or playing tennis, when it came to my senior year, it was decent. It was my first full year as a track and field athlete. First year triple jumping, so I was still learning the event, right, and improving a good bit at a time. But I didn't really get recruited by Harvard. I got recruited by a lot of schools. Harvard wasn't one of them. So I remember emailing the coach at the time to ask if she thought I was good enough to make the team. Could I travel with the team? What would that be like? And so, you know, it's funny for me because there were other schools I went on recruiting trips to Yale, Princeton, Dartmouth, and a few others, but Harvard wasn't one of them. And so, you know, it was just one of those things where I was growing, I was learning the event, I was getting better. I enjoyed the fact that, again, like I said, if I could study, like you mentioned, if I could study and improve in different areas, it could have a sizable impact on my performance on the track, right? So better coordinated, I'm studying YouTube and seeing how to do X, Y, and Z and getting a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, a little bit taller at the same time. So it was one of those things where I was thrown into it, but I instantly fell in love with it. Love the other events I was doing too. I just wasn't as successful at them. So the success helped me enjoy the triple jump as well.
You know, I never would have thought that. I never would have thought that at all. I would have thought that this was something that you were good at off the bat, and that you literally were just putting down your work just to get better and better at it. But that's amazing. And I think that's part of also the journey that people just don't know. You know, you go through lessons of failure and you figure out, okay, well, that doesn't work. That's just more lessons for me to figure out. more feedback for me to put into my situation and say, okay, well, now I'm going to use all those things that I learned to now drill into this thing, and that will be better in the end. So that's amazing. That's really amazing. Yeah, I mean, clearly, you know, after my senior year, you went on to do all kinds of things at Harvard. And, you know, I know that you got involved in other games post Harvard. So all your accolades for Harvard, you know, amazing, clearly NCAA, fantastic. And then you decided at some point in time you were going to continue to do that. What was the main thing that pushed you to say, you know what, let me continue this post undergrad?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it started with an injury, right? So thankfully, after you graduated, I was able to have a little bit more success and wasn't adding second place finishes to my resume because I already had 2 indoors and outdoors after you, right? So sophomore year, junior year, 1 indoors and outdoors for conference. My junior year was an All-American, set the Ivy League record and Harvard record. So at that point, I'm like, it's a wrap. Like senior year, I'm about to win NCAA my senior year. And I got injured. I got injured indoors leading into conference my senior year. And so what ended up happening is went to conference my senior year. I wasn't fully healthy. I think I came second or third round. I threw that medal away somewhere because I was injured. And then I redshirted my junior year. My outdoor season, my senior year. And it's funny, I'd already been admitted to law school, but with that redshirt season, I told them, I was like, look, I ain't coming. I got unfinished business, so I ain't coming. And I got recruited by a few places, right? Because I was an All-American as a junior, as an underclassman. And so I had a few big schools who were like, all right, you can pursue a graduate degree here, use your redshirt eligibility, and then go on to law school and do the boring lawyer thing. So I ended up deciding on going to the University of Texas with one of my closest friends on earth, who was my roommate in college. He also had a redshirt season, so we both went down there to Texas. And then when I got there, I picked up where I left off to some extent my junior year. So performances were great, battled some injuries again, but I qualified for NCAA and did decently there. But being there in that environment, right? Like you go from, like you said, Ivy League, you're in a bubble, but it's so intense. The competition is still very intense. When you get outside that bubble, you go to a place like UT, you're like, oh, this is different, right? And I had some of that experience going to nationals because people made fun of me because I was at Harvard. Like, what, you go to Harvard? Like, it was just, I had some of that experience. But being at Texas with my teammates, training with them every day, seeing what it was like, seeing what that environment was like. I mean, some of my teammates on that team, and I always tell people, like, we should have won NCAAs as a team, because I've got one of my teammates was world junior champion in the high jump, went on to be an Olympic medalist, world championship medalist. Had another teammate who was Olympic and world championship medalist, world championship gold medalist in the decathlon. Another teammate was Olympic silver medalist in the 1500. And like the list goes on. I had one guy was a shot putter, went on to play for the Vikings. So just seeing that, being in that environment, opened my eyes to what the world of track and field could be post-college, right? Because all these people were like, Texas is great, we're amazing, I'm killing NCAAs, but I got to pack my bags and go to Europe for the World Championships. And I'm like, what is all this, you know? So I think that experience in that environment, even though even my time at Texas as an athlete didn't go exactly as I wanted, because I wanted to win NCAAs, it still was an amazing learning experience. And then on top of that, I was still improving, right? Like I got to a place where I kind of picked up back where I left off my junior year in college. And I was like, I'm still getting better. Just like in high school, like I said, still getting faster, still getting stronger. I'm still learning how to do this thing. By that time, I'd only had 4 full years competing, depending on the injuries. And I'm still like, there's some tweaks that I can make. So for me, it was always like, I want to see how deep this rabbit hole can go. And I haven't gotten to the bottom yet. So in spite of the fact that I was now finished my graduate degree and had to go to law school, I was like, nah, I can't stop. I can't stop because I'm still improving. I'm still getting better, even if it's 1 centimeter at a time. And just so happened that summer, after I finished my time at Texas, the Pan American Games in Rio de Janeiro were taking place. So I reached out to the Haitian Athletic Federation, like, are you guys can keep going? I'm, decently ranked in the NCAA, so I'd love to represent you because. And we can get into why I made that decision. But in that time, a lot of my teammates were like, we got Pan American Games, we got this, we got that. And I was like, cool, like, let me check it out, right? It's another competition. It's another chance for me to get better. It's my first time going to Brazil. If I can find a way to get on this team, why wouldn't I want to do that prior to going to law school? So long story short, the Haitian Olympic Committee and Federation were like, all right, let's give it a shot. Let's see how it goes, especially since at that time I was decently ranked in the Pan American, sports organization, which is from the tip of Brazil all the way to Canada, right? So Pan Am, you just consider it the Western Hemisphere for the most part. So went to Pan American Games, and at that point I was like, this is amazing, right? I can travel the world, I can still compete, I'm still getting better, which is the most important thing, and I'm still learning and growing. I got to keep pushing. So law school be damned. I was like, all right, I'll figure out a way to make it work. I'm going to law school. I got to figure out how to like compartmentalize things so that I can train when I need to train. I can study when I need to study. But as long as I'm improving on the track, I ain't giving it up. I can keep pushing. So, it was that was a long-winded way to say I kept going after college because I was still learning. I was still improving. I was still trying to be more, quite honestly. So it's one of those things where even in law school, I was like, I'm getting better, right? Like, why would I stop? Even after my first year of law school, which was pretty arduous, I set personal best that summer, right? Like, I didn't compete too much during the law school year. I did compete a few times, which was interesting to balance school and all of that. But that summer after law school, I'd set personal best, and I was like, oh, I'm like that. If I'm still getting better and I'm in law school, I got to keep going. So it was interesting. And then that first summer after law school were the 08 Olympic Games. So in my head, I was like, all right, I think if I improve enough, if I do this, I can hit the minimum standard to go. Maybe I can qualify for the Beijing Games. I missed it by like a handful of inches, but I set a personal best. So for me, that's an indication like something's working. I'm getting better, something's working, keep pushing. So it really was just this growth mindset in terms of after college, I wasn't done. The injuries, I know you want to go out on your own terms, so that's a part of it too, but I was still learning and I was still getting better, so there was more to do.
I remember I had just graduated from PT school, and it was 2012 Olympics for London.
Yeah.
And I remember looking, I don't know if we were friends on Instagram or anything yet, social media wise, but I remember looking, I must have found out somehow that you were competing for Haiti.
Yeah.
And, I said, I turned every TV on in the clinic I was working. I said, we got to watch this. And I checked to see what time it was starting. I said, guys, I know this guy. We have to watch this. And I made every patient in the room, every staff member in the room watch when you jump. And, I remember it. And I was like, he's representing Haiti, but he's from here. And to see you on that stage do so well, in my mind, I'm sure that, you had your own goals set for that day, clearly. But seeing you on that stage, to me, just brought so many things home, because it was the ultimate combination of hard work, dedication, again, honing your craft, getting to a place where you not just represent, school, right, Harvard, Ivy League, but now you're talking about representing a country on a global stage. It just, to me, I was proud. I was proud to know you. I was proud to see you in that arena, and proud to see you do so well in that arena, because not everyone can say that you're an Olympian. Not everyone can say that they've been on that stage to do that kind of a thing. So for you, what was that experience like? And do you think that is experience that one of the pinnacles of your athletic career?
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot. But so the experience was, and I tell people this, is exactly what you hope and expect it would be, right? Like, you walk in opening ceremonies, it's thankfully not like Tokyo, but it was pre-COVID, right? So you walk in opening ceremonies and get the full experience of it, just all of the pageantry and everything that goes on with an opening ceremony. You walk in, you're like, dang, like this is it, right? So the experience of being at the Olympics, and like you said, you're one of however many 100 million people who gets to be an Olympian, and on top of that, to be in that environment in a city like London, that was an amazing host city. It was everything I'd hoped it would be, and then competing on that stage, this is odd to say, like being an Olympian, being at the Olympics was everything I'd hope it would be and everything that people expect and dream it could be. But then competing until the finals, because I qualified for the final, until the finals, competing was just another competition, right? And I've been at the point where thankfully I had gotten to a few world championships prior to that. And I think at my first few world championships, I was shell-shocked, right? And that had an impact on my performance, whether it's like the anxiety or just the moment, or like I never could have anticipated being there. So I got to the Olympics, I was like, nah, I'm ready. Like this is just another day. I'm here to accomplish a goal. My goal was to win Haiti's first Olympic medal since 1928. So in the qualifying round, I was like, this is business as usual. I'm here to qualify for the finals. This ain't nothing, right? So I'd gotten a lot of the butterflies and jitters out at first, and I was shell-shocked because it was everything I'd hoped it would be. Then competition-wise, I was like, I'm here. This is what I got to do. For me to win a medal, I got to qualify for the finals. So I'm just checking that box. So first day was good. Second day was a little bit shell-shocked in the finals, right? Because that's like 80,000 people in the stadium. It's prime time. I think as I'm competing, there's an 800-meter world record being broken and a 200-meter world record being broken. And there's only 12 of us and the camera's in your face. And so now in the finals, it was, it was exhilarating. It was anxiety inducing. It was a ton of fun. It was definitely it was absolutely the most memorable athletic experience that I've had. For a few reasons. I mean, I had a bunch of family and friends there wearing like Laine training t-shirts, or like front and center. And then I know that cameras are on me, so I know the whole world is watching. I had a phone call from the president of Haiti the night before the finals. So absolutely, hands down, the most memorable athletic experience. And it was, now, even if I think about it, right? It's like it was yesterday, just because it was such a big moment. Not just for me, but in every way. Like I said, it's 800-meter world record that will probably never, ever be broken. I'm watching it, and Usain Bolt's running on one side of the track, and we're competing, and my parents are there, and everyone has flags, and 80,000 people in the stadium. Just to understand what that sounds like to be in the middle of it was exhilarating. So, I think it's a two-part answer, right? Like, as a whole, being an Olympian was everything I could have imagined it being. Being in that competition was it was a lot, right? Like, you realize when you're that man in the arena, like the poem goes, it's a big moment. But my most memorable athletic experience, absolutely that, and I'd say I have some others, right? Because I was blessed to be able to travel the world, and the year after went to Moscow for the World Championships and qualified for the finals there. Being an NCAA All-American was like the start of it for me as well. But that Olympic final, that was it for sure.
Amazing. Oh my God, amazing. So listen, you have all these experiences, right? You've been through so many situations where you had to compete, and you learned about yourself in those instances. You also had an opportunity to learn from those things and apply it to other things in life, like while you were studying for law school at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. What are some of the tips or some of the things that you take as an athlete that you've applied to your personal, academic, and professional life at this point?
Man, it's a long list, right? Especially, people always say like track and field is an individual sport. It's not a team sport. Team sports are better for whatever reason. I think athletics and sports in general, there's so much to teach you. But as you know, in track and field, and then in the triple jump, it's you, right? Like, so much rides that you are on the runway. Nobody else going to jump for you. There's no baton you're going to pass. No one's doing the workouts for you. It's you on the runway doing what you have to do. And then the triple jump in particular is so technical that it's not a brute force event. Not that any events are brute force in track and field, but it's not like just run as fast as I can, put my foot down and take off, like the long jump. And even that's technical. But in the triple jump, to improve, I realized that I had to sort of unpack whatever the event was and dissect it, right? And improve at each and every aspect and element of what it was to piece it back together for one extra inch in my jump. And so professionally and academically, I learned two things from that. First, I learned to just be able to dissect and problem solve, and I learned a lot of that in law school too, but just to kind of unpack situations and figure out the best path forward and what that path forward might be for a mutually beneficial resolution, right? But then the other piece of it is just learn a lot about determination, learn a lot about having a growth mindset and what that means, and how there's always a way to improve, right? And it's in the classroom, in your career, in your relationships, there's always a way to improve. There's always probably numerous ways to improve. And so how can I sort of analyze and just take a step back and think about what are those ways? And then once I unpack those ways to improve in each of those categories, what advances the ball forward? And so, for me, as I was jumping, I would always do like post meet analysis or post workout. I had a notebook, and every day I'd wake up and like, all right, these are my goals for the day. These are my goals in my workouts. And then after the workout, I'd be like, did I accomplish those goals? Why didn't I? If I did, what went well? We'll do that for every day, every practice, every competition. And so even just that mindset of analyzing my progress and how to improve, how to be better, how to grow as an athlete, something that's applicable throughout for me, right? As an academic and as a professional as well. So just trying to analyze, trying to be better, trying to grow, and not just at the surface level, but trying to get down to that tier 2 analysis of what it might take to improve at whatever I'm doing. And sometimes it's tough, right? Like it's easy for us to measure inches and centimeters on the track or seconds on the track or stuff like that. And professionally and academically, the ruler and the metric isn't as clear sometimes. So even unpacking that takes some effort, right? Like sit down, like what does success mean here? What does improvement mean here? And then backtracking and like, what are the ways that I can be better or change things that might result in improvement? And then trying like one by one, go check in the box. And it's like, and I said a few times, right? In the triple jump, you've got speed, power, coordination, strength. You've got your posture, and like all these things pieced together to improve you as a triple jump. So one at a time, how do I get stronger? How do I get faster? How do I get more powerful? How do I improve my coordination? How do I improve my balance? And each of those for me added a centimeter or an inch. And same thing in academia, right? So even in law school, it's like, how am I understanding these? How do I unpack it? Am I reading too slow? Am I reading too fast? What do I have to analyze? And then also I did the same thing as I did as an athlete, right? Like I would have my notes, and for every case we read in law school, I'm trying to dissect it and I'm trying to like be better and so on and so forth. And so I think just being able to be laser focused on being better made a big impact from my athletic life to my life in school and now and beyond. And then on top of that, just being determined, right? And as an athlete, there's always injuries. There's always this and always that. And so for you, you had your own, and for me too, right? My senior year in college, I was like, damn, I got supposed to be my best year. I was supposed to come out and go crazy. And I'm injured, I can't even compete. And I was team captain at the time. So how do you bounce back from that? How do you reinvent yourself in that? And Texas didn't go like I wanted to, but I was still improving and still growing. And then even as a professional athlete, had some injuries and had to bounce back from that as well. So it was learned a lot, but all of it, or I'd say most of it, is applicable to what I'm doing now, to be honest.
Wow, that's incredible. Your story is so funny how similar we are in terms of the injuries senior year and being team captain and what have you. I didn't know any of those things.
Yeah.
Learn those things. But now you're an attorney, clearly, as my wife is one too. So That's always fun to have that in the family to some extent. And just talk to listeners a little bit about the law that you practice, because there are multiple factors that you can do when it comes to law.
Yeah.
And then a little bit about the careers that you've had. I know you've had a journey from the MLS to Rock Nation and now for Westbrook. So just talk to listeners a little bit about what you do now in terms of the law and your progression through these programs or these companies to what you do right now in LA.
Yeah, it's all of it came from being an athlete, right? For me, I was always like, I had a goal and I was like, all right, what are the stepping stones to get to where I ultimately want to go? So at the tail end of my athletic career, I did a lot of work on the legal side for Monumental Sports and Entertainment in DC. They own the Washington Wizards, Washington Capitals. They own the Mystics and a lot of like sports properties. And my goal in law school and throughout law school was like, I want to be a sports lawyer, because not only was I an athlete, but I wanted to be somewhere at the intersection of sports, law, and business. And however that manifested, that was the goal. And I was like, if I go to a law firm, I ultimately for me to compete as a professional athlete after law school, I had to decline several law firm offers, right? So I had some like white shoe law firms that had made formal employment offers. I was like, nah, I can't do it. I'm still doing this track and field thing. But at the tail end of my career, I was fortunate enough to be given a shot by Ted Leonsis, who owns the Washington Wizards, did some sports law. And then when I retired from competing, I transitioned that to work at Major League Soccer in a position that was, I'd say, part law, part business, and a whole lot of like actual like the sports side of it, right? So I did, and not to get into like an MLS structure too much, but I was almost I almost worked as the league's general manager to some extent, right? Like at the league office, you have folks who are helping the team with their salary caps and their rosters. I was also doing player contracts when the teams or the leagues brought players into the league. So there's that legal aspect. I did a lot of work with the players union. So we had like some like employee and labor law stuff that I was doing, but it was almost the best of all worlds, right? I was like in the soccer world, in sports. I was helping the teams with their rosters and their salary cap. So I had like my general manager hat on. I was doing some legal stuff, so I got to utilize that, even though I wasn't necessarily practicing, but it was really the best of all worlds. And then got poached by a headhunter to go to Rock Nation, right? And at that point, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, Rock Nation's chief operating officer and Jay-Z are looking for someone to fill this role. And they were looking for someone who did have that balance between sports and business. And so it was good, right? I mean, the allure of being at a place like Rock Nation, but also being in the music and entertainment world pulled me away from my sports goals, because sports was like always it for me. But music and entertainment are close to sports, depending on who you ask. Sports is entertainment, especially at the professional level. So at Rock Nation, I learned a tremendous amount. And there I probably practiced less law and did less law than I did at MLS. So I was like, every step I made, I was moving further and further away from actually practicing law. But for me, it was a step forward in my career, right? Because at Rock Nation, I got to have my arms around so much more than even I did at Major League Soccer. I was helping on the operations side of the business as a whole. I was managing artists. I was doing deals. I was working with brands like some of Jay's brands, Tidal and Duce and Ace of Spades and Paper Planes. And so literally have my fingertip on the pulse of everything in the business. And it's a very, very broad and vast business. And then joined Westbrook. I think Westbrook was probably 3 or 4 months old by the time I joined. I had a few classmates who were involved at the executive level at Westbrook. And my experience was valuable to them, especially in a world where now I practice even less law, right? Because I'm still a member of the bar, but I don't, Westbrook isn't a client of mine, so I'm not practicing, but I'm helping the company and different talent and celebrities that we work with build brands. And it's a lot of what I did at Major League Soccer and at Rock Nation culminating to what I'm doing now, right? So at Major League Soccer, I worked even with Adidas on their partnership with the league and so on. And then at Rock Nation, I worked with several artists on their brands. Like I said, some of Jay's brands, which are very, very successful and have now contributed to him becoming a billionaire. And what I'm doing now is trying to craft some of those brands for some other folks. And it really is just continuing to grow and evolve. And my entire career, what I've always told people is just trying to, and this is the same thing in my athletic career, trying to be bulletproof to some extent, right? Like as you're marching along, you're augmenting your skill sets, you're adding to your armor, you're adding to your knowledge in a way that when you face challenges, those challenges aren't insurmountable, right? Like, because by that point, by the time you face them, you've added enough from all your experiences and everything you've done. And so, and I keep mentioning how I improve as a triple jumper, because it's like, all right, get a little bit stronger, get a little bit faster, and I can pad myself. So when I go to competition, it's a wrap. I know I got this. My career is the same way, right? Like, I'm like, I got, even in law school, I'm like, all right, I take this class, I'm gonna add it with this, and I gotta do this. And so when I get out, if I get into sports law, I'm good. Like no one can ever doubt my resume, my pedigree, my experience, my accomplishments. And that's always what it's been, right? So every experience is, how can I learn? How can I grow? How can I augment my skill sets? How can I make myself more useful? Because that's what it's all about, your usefulness to whatever organization you're in or whoever you're working with. And that's what led me to where I'm at now. So it started with being sort of a part-time legislative counsel with the Monumental Sports and Entertainment in DC, led to Major League Soccer, which led to Rock Nation, which led to where I am now. But it was all a learning and growing process, and still learning and growing, and that's what it's all about.
Wow, incredible. Listen, you've done so much on the track. You've done so much in terms of the law. And you've also done a lot in terms of your community. And, I love when people are always giving back. I think it's imperative for people who have been given much to give back to whoever they've been, touched by. And, for you, when it comes to Haiti, with so much things happening in Haiti, not just this year, but in just years past, right? Haiti's been hit with so many things. And it feels like every time we have 4 steps forward, it's like 9 steps back when it comes to Haiti. I know you've involved with the board of directors there for L'École de Choix. And you've also done a lot with the athletics over there and with some of the young people. Talk a little bit about some of the things you've been doing or continue to at least be connected with when it comes to Haiti, and why you think sports can be and should be something that gives the people in Haiti, at least the youth in Haiti, a little bit of hope.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing for me is sports has unifying capabilities for any country, and we see here in the US, like everyone unifies around the professional teams, but in a country like Haiti, it can do so much to not only teach, but also unify and rally and give kids something to glean lessons from, right? Like the lessons I've taken from athletics have paid dividends down the line. I feel like it's a growing experience that I'd love for kids in Haiti to have more of, because here we've got infrastructures where it's like you sign up for this program, you sign up for that program, you sign up for this. In Haiti, a lot of that doesn't exist, and not to the extent that I wish it would. And so, like you said, for me, with my platform, it was always about athletes to some extent in the US are a dime a dozen, but in Haiti, to have an athlete competing at a global level, the aspiration, the desire was to be an example of what's achievable. And so now when I go back and starting with L'École de Choix, it was, and thankfully they reached out to me, right? Because I'd had a platform considering what I was doing and how I was representing Haiti. They reached out to me for me to get involved. But now I get to consult with them and some of their sports programs, because the school does a lot for the communities that they serve, not just graduating kids, but giving them access to programs, like I mentioned, that we have here, we probably take for granted, that in Haiti and a ton of other countries, they don't have access to. And so with like École de Choix, I get to sort of consult on the programs and see how they're building them up, be a liaison to some extent with the Olympic Committee, which has their own issues and their own difficulties in doing what they're supposed to do for the country and for the people. But L'École de Choix has programs where they're sending kids to like Bahamas for competitions, and they have like training on, each afternoon or a few times a week, and they get to have an actual solid program that the kids in the school can benefit from. And so the biggest thing is being able to be that resource for them, where it's set a program up like this. Every now and then I'll even speak to some kids down there who can ask me questions. I'm always an open book in certain terms of my experience and what I got from athletics, but how I feel like it can benefit them in Haiti and at the school. And then beyond that, with the Olympic Committee, is just trying to find a way to channel what little resources they do have for the benefit of the kids. And at the end of the day, I think the sport and the education, and that's why what École de Choix is doing is so like spot on with me, with my, not just with how I want to have an impact, but my own experiences, right? It was always the intersection of sports and athletics. So the school is a great outlet for me to sort of stay connected, to give back. And then I try to do the same with the Olympic Committee. I think the Olympic Committee and the Track and Field Federation in Haiti, there's a lot of work still to be done, but just trying to sort of steer them in a way that is beneficial to the younger generations. But it really is just about lessons and opportunity and platforms. And for the kids from École de Choix who get to go to Bahamas for competitions or compete outside of Haiti, a lot of them, that's their first experience leaving their town, let alone the country, to go compete somewhere else on track and field. And the same way my experience going to Texas opened my eyes up to like, wow, what is this? It's the same experience for kids down there who go to another town for a competition or go to another country for a competition. So that's really, really a big deal for me. So now it's just about finding the best way, in addition to École de Choix, to be able to give back and But, like you said, sometimes there's just bigger fish to fry. And even in those times, for me, sports is an outlet for like distraction or relief, or to some extent as well. So just trying to have a tangible impact. That's what it was always about. For me, I just decided to compete for Haiti because, as I alluded to, I went to the Olympics in London. The U.S. had, I think, almost 600 Olympians, and Haiti had 5. Right. So right there, you're like, all right, this means something, right? Because there's 5 people from the country, and 4 of us were training and living in the U.S. versus the U.S. has 500 plus Olympians. Like, even right off the bat, it's that much more impactful. And it is impactful. But then beyond that, I'm like, how can I have a tangible impact, right? So can I help raise money for the school? Can I help speak to the kids? Can I help do X, Y, and Z? Is a way for me to have a tangible impact in addition to whatever intangible impact I might have had while competing.
Wow. Sam, I mean, this is what Be More Say is about. It's really about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and you doing extraordinary things, not just in terms of your professional career, but also for your community. And yeah, man, I asked everybody on the show what the phrase Be More Say means to them. Your number is 75. Big number 75. So when you hear the phrase Be More Today, what does that phrase mean to you?
You know what? It means consistent growth, no matter how incremental. Consistent growth, consistent improving. So like improvement. So especially today, when it's like Be More Today, it's like, what can I do today to improve, to grow, to be better, to learn, to move forward, right? And so the beauty for us of the triple jump is it really was 1 centimeter at a time. And I've lost competitions, not just to you, I've lost competition. I remember my sophomore and junior, I went to the U.S. Junior National Championship. This was before I decided to compete for Haiti. And I missed out on making the U.S. Junior Pan American team by a centimeter. At that time, I was like a quarter of an. I don't think people understand like what a centimeter is, a quarter of an inch. And so at that point, I was like, all right, if you can lose by a centimeter, you can win by a centimeter. If you can win by a centimeter, you can improve by a centimeter. And so the idea of, and that's thankfully I've had those experiences as a triple jumper, but even the concept of Be More Today is like, today, what can I do? And even like, I'd like to read a lot, but if you don't, can you read? Even if I do read a lot, I'm like, all right, have I read today? Can I read more today? Can I read something that teaches me something? What can I learn today? Can I learn a new word today? Like literally, what can I do to just be a better version of myself tomorrow than I was coming into this day? No matter how incrementally that is, no matter how small that is, what can I do to sort of unpack the areas in which I need to improve and apply something today that makes a difference tomorrow, right? Like, and for me, like I said, sometimes it is as simple as like, I learned a new word today. I learned a word, tomorrow I'm gonna use it in a sentence and an email to someone. I've improved, but it really is just becoming better in a tangible way for yourself. It doesn't mean it has to be better for anyone else. It's not anyone else's standards of what's better or anything like that. Like, Be More Today is a personal thing, but what can I do on a daily basis to be a better version, to grow, to learn, to improve?
Well said, sir. Well said. Listen, any final thoughts you want to share with listeners about going through trials, experiences, your work as an attorney, or even your experiences in your journey as an athlete, and how we can use those things just to be better people?
Yeah. You know what? Not to be cliche, but it really is just having this idea of continuing to improve. Right? So setbacks are just setups for major comebacks, and at some point, it's just those setbacks might be very, very significant. And at the same time, if you lose yourself in the setback, you'll never have the opportunity to get back to where you want to be or where you should have been, and so on. And so I know you've experienced that, and you speak about it on a regular basis. And so, and some people, the idea of stick-to-itiveness and all that is probably cliched, but there's value in it. And in the sports world, it just seems so inconsequential in terms of the real world, what people go through. But those lessons don't change, right? Whatever it is, it's an unemployment or an ailment or whatever it is. The idea of, all right, I can beat this. Like there's a way for me to get through this. I'm still here for a reason. I'm still kicking. So there's a way for me to get to the other side, not just get to the other side, but get to the other side and thrive and prosper. There's something to that. So that's that's really, really important to me. That's probably the one parting note I'll leave on. But no, this was a pleasure, man. I'm glad we got to catch up. I appreciate you reaching out to make it happen. This has been dope. This has been dope.
Awesome. Sam, where can people follow you, either on social media or otherwise?
Yeah, social media is just I am Samyr Laine, SAMYR LAINE. And there aren't too many Samyrs with a Y anyways, but full handles I am Samyr Laine on social media.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, dude. You made episode 75 just what I wanted. One for the so I appreciate you. And folks, listen, you heard him say so many things. He went through so many trials, and like he said, if you can lose by an inch or a centimeter, you can win by a centimeter. The quote for today is very, very simple. The day you understand that loss ain't nothing but lessons and failure ain't nothing but feedback, your entire world will shift for the better. His world shifted, and he's traveled all around the world doing these things and applying what he learned as an athlete to his career and to his community. And I hope you guys will do the same in anything that you're doing. Do not be afraid to fail. Not be afraid to recognize that if you lose by a centimeter, tomorrow you can win by that same centimeter in your life. And I just hope that you are inspired by this show today. Again, for all things Be More Today related, check out our site, BeMoreToday.com. For my book, which is on Amazon and everywhere else, our More Swag store, our podcast information, and we're also on a Facebook group on Facebook. If you want to join us to talk about things all related to health and wellness and fitness, join our group and let's talk about you and me and how we can keep moving forward together. Thank you so much for being on the show today. If you want to contact me at all, again, Dr. Sean at BeMoreToday.com. As I always say, have a good day, have a good night, have a great life, and continue to take your steps to greatness to be the best version of you. We'll see you next week.